Being nobody is a great beginning. We need to look at these stages of being nobody. What are the places where we can be nobody? The real nobodiness begins after presence, after sitting through the spiritual weather, and we come to the mini-nirvana, a place of rest from being somebody, someone, something. The next major stop where we can enjoy nobodiness even deeper is the region of the great void, which is much deeper, much bigger. That is the second deeper, bigger nobodiness. The third stage of nobodiness is when one settles well into full consciousness, when there is integration. Being nobody is spontaneous, is no longer trying to abide. It's no longer being in the void on the causal regions. Settling in full consciousness, one naturally becomes nobody. The boundaries dissolve. Everything merges into the one, which is empty yet full. There are further stages along the path when we work on karma clearing and we revisit the previous stages on the self-realization path, but now having cleared through the karmic anchor points where there's no more denials, no more escapism, avoidance. When certain spiritual teachers known in the history have settled into the void as their ground state of the soul, that nobodiness became enriched. It became lived rather than temporarily visited. So once again, the nobodiness can be experienced in Brahmanda, in the causal region of our universe, as a deep, deep peace, perfection of peace. Beyond Par-Brahmanda, as a ground state of soul advancement, the nobodiness has capacity to witness all the souls below, all the creation below, and rest in that much more true nirvana as Buddha has spoken of. I already lost count which stage that is, because there is even more actually. In the divine, there is also nobodiness. Once we reach the 5th and 6th divine regions, which is now extremely rare, extremely few masters ever reach that stage. that nobodiness is the nature of God. It's the nature of the Spirit, God's Spirit. It is a million times more immense nobodiness than the one of non-dual space just after presence. The view of nobodiness from the upper divine region is innumerably larger, bigger. And yet there is one more stage beyond the upper regions of the divine, which is the finality of the Spirit. That nobodiness has a grand view of all God's spirits, the divine stream. That nobodiness has a view of all divine existence and all creation below. It is by no means any competition of who is more nobody than the other. It would be quite a entertaining competition, trying to prove someone is more nobody than the other. But these stations are different. The view, the expanse is so much vaster. So one of the greatest examples in human history was Buddha, the awakened one who explained nirvana as the great emptiness. He had the largest view of nobodiness. He also called it being completely awakened. And in that complete awakeness, he witnessed the vastness of existence. And that's why he derived a clear cosmology of creation in comparison to the present day non-dual jnanis who simply throw the phrases "I'm nothing, nothing exists, nothing matters." This is a child's play, because the Buddha's view is millions and millions bigger and clearer of what it truly means to be nobody, what that emptiness is. He called it nirvana. Many people in the last 2000 years plus tried to get to these stages of emptiness. But it's so much more than mere silence in the absence of thoughts. Emptying the mind is a very first step, but clearing all karma on all channels is what brings effortless emptiness. Riding along the divine stream, witnessing these stations of possible experiences of the emptiness. So that's why it is a path to freedom. And the view of the freedom, the abidance of the freedom, is ever expanding. It's beautiful. Being nobody is the absence of identity. somebody that you've taken yourself to be was never actually real as the somebody, but as the witnessing consciousness without identifying as someone or something is the entry point. The quietness of the mind is the absence of what stirs the mind, not the absence of thoughts, which is easy to attain for a second or few. Just freeze yourself, stop breathing for 20 seconds, you will see all your thoughts will disappear. That's easy, anyone can do it. But the resolution of the stirring of the mind, resolution of what disturbs the mind, what brings it into activity, is another level. We beautifully do get these experiences of being no one, nothing, which are very peaceful, very restful. When there's no need to identify as someone, when there's no need to prove yourself to anyone, when there's no need to be someone to anyone, it's a very resting state. Some people spend their whole life becoming someone, and they leave it at the door of passing away. They leave everything at the door of passing away. It is a natural cycle, a shedding of identity when we transition to the next stage of life called afterlife. But even that is not a correct term, because life continues just in another way. So it's not afterlife. It's a next stage of life, of shedding the old. So therefore, on the spiritual path, we gently familiarize with not needing to be someone. We start to familiarize with the unknown, starting to be okay with the unknown. Start familiarizing to be okay without thoughts, without explanations in your head. Being okay without needing to know. We familiarize being okay without using the mind. And it's not a loss, nothing is lost, because greater depth is gained. Ego creates suffering by constantly trying to become someone. And when you no longer need to become someone, ego starts to soften. We have a similar cycle naturally in life, that in your 20s, you typically want to discover yourself, who you are, what you are supposed to do here, what's your purpose here. In your 30s, you start finding yourself. You already tested the ground. You already found something that works for you. Hopefully by 40s, you're no longer chasing to become someone, because you typically already know yourself in a natural cycle of life. So even there are these stages, but when we expand them to the spiritual higher planes, it is the same process. It is simply much more expanded. So we need to ask ourselves, are we willing to be nobody? Are you ready to be nobody? Not as a goal, not out of excitement, not because it's the next thing that I should do and my mind agrees with me. Yes, now I should try to become nobody. My mind wants that. No, that's not the real deal. Are you willing to be nobody without the mind? Without the need to become nobody? Are you willing to be nobody with no past, because the past defined you? Are you willing to be nobody with no future? We have to be comfortable with the unknown. Be willing to be with no future, no role, no identity. This is a maturing of being. It's a maturing of being. So being nobody is not really being nothing. It's more of an absence of being something. And because of that absence of grasping onto something, the emptiness expands. The absence of it, the plenitude becomes present in the emptiness. So grasping narrows things down, because you can also grasp for nothingness and being no one, and that is a wrong way. If you watch this satsang and say, oh, this is my next goal, now I want to become nobody, you will start grasping, and that is a wrong way. Emptying yourself from grasping is the way. There is a saying that the spiritual quest is not a freedom of individual. The spiritual quest is not for you as an individual to become free. It is the freedom from the individual. It's to become free from the individual, and not for the individual to become free. Becoming free from being individual. Becoming familiar with being nobody in particular is beautiful. On a daily basis, I go out into the world, doing groceries, visiting a place for some tea, and there everybody plays the role of their individuals. And I can reciprocate with that. Yes, hello, how are you? My day was good. But I am awake in that game, more like a director of the movie, rather than the actor who is identified with the role. The director of the movie knows exactly how the movie is supposed to go. If the actor wants to be good, they need to identify with the role, to play a good role, to try to be exactly that somebody. But a director of the movie knows the full scope of it. The director of the movie is not identifying with neither of the roles or the scenes or the past, the present, or the future, because the director of the movie knows the transition from the past to present and future, the beginning and the end, and all the roles that everyone needs to play to make this movie seem to be real. So the director of the movie is not there to stand out in any way, but to make sure that the movie goes on, everybody plays their role. In this case, God is the director, and the movie is all creation. Becoming empty, becoming nobody, at a deeper stage, as I previously described, it's actually abiding in bliss. But that is at a much deeper stage. And to abide in that bliss, being no one, nobody, is to allow nature or creation to take its course. The movie is already set in motion. The director knows what this is all about. So allowing nature to take its course, what needs to happen. And actually, when you are born, you were born as no one. No name, no identity. Only later your parents convinced you that you are Mary, that you are David or John, or they convinced you, they gave you the name. They showed you how to identify with the body. There is also a natural process that occurs to identify with the body. But later we learn to reverse it. So awakening as nobody, we could say enlightenment is about recognizing, realizing, accepting the fact that you are nobody. That really helps to bring humility of the specialness. Humility of the specialness. The balance is the nobodiness. There is a Zen saying from a Zen tradition. When you are in a Zen monastery, a Zen master gives a lesson, ringing the bell, and asks the students to describe what was happening. And one says, I heard the bell. I heard ringing of the bell. The bell was ringing. And the master says, no. Because there was no I and there was no bell. There was only ringing. No object, no subject, just the sound, the pure sound. Because as soon as there is I, who identifies as the one of hearing, it becomes already distorted. As soon as the focus is placed on what is ringing, the ringing itself becomes distorted. So placing attention on the I, that I hear the bell ringing, and the object that the bell is ringing distorts the actual experience of witnessing the ringing of the bell. It just rings. Same way with love. When you love, you have to become nobody for love to happen. Because when there is I, love, you, it is distorted with I and you. And the love is limited by I and you. But when you become nobody, there is love. And it's not because of I or because of you. It's because love is love, or love is.
Sat